Welcome to the Integrate This EdTech podcast. I am Jeremy Mikla and joined as always by co-host David Berner. And David and I are super excited to welcome our special guest here today, Dr. Rachel Edoho-Eket, who is just a fantastic principal. She has been recognized as a top 100 influencers in education by District Administration Magazine, as well as an ISTE and ASCD 20 to Watch award winner, among many other accolades. I know she's spoken at TEDx events in the past. Rachel also has her own podcast, and I think we'll get into that a little bit here later on in the show as well. But, Rachel, welcome. We're super excited to have you on.
Thank you so much, David and Jeremy. I'm really excited for this conversation today.
Yeah. So one of the things that we do, Rachel, is we kind of let the guest begin by giving a little bit of their journey through education to, their humble beginnings or what have you up to, where you're at here now. So if you don't mind, can you kind of clue the listeners into a little bit of your background story?
Sure. I love this question because I think it shows there's many different pathways and there's not just a straight line to get to where we want to be. But I am a third generation educator. So my grandmother and mother both have their teaching degrees, and teaching was something that was always something that was modeled as important to us in terms of education. And so I knew from a very young age that I wanted to be a teacher. I did not have school administration anywhere in my mind, but I definitely knew I wanted to be a teacher. My aunt also is a teacher. She taught music for 30 years. So I just grew up around educators, and I knew that that was something I wanted to do. And I'm someone that loved school growing up. So I wanted to be a part of the whole process in terms of helping students and families and other teachers and staff members succeed as we're working with kids. So I started my career as a kindergarten teacher, and I really loved teaching kindergarten. I didn't have prior experience with teaching students that young, but I really fell in love with the 5-year-olds. And I always tell people I learned so much from being a kindergarten teacher. The book, Everything You Need to Know You Learn in Kindergarten, that's something that was true for me. I really learned how to be an ambassador for families. I learned how to help see students' potential and move students where they can be with encouragement. And I also learned just how to differentiate instruction and how to meet very diverse needs. And so I loved my time as a kindergarten teacher, and I did that for many, many years, about half of my career. And then I got married and ended up having twins. And so that ended up being a little bit of a part in my journey where I stayed at home. So I always tell people, if you are someone who's going to take child rearing leave, just know it's not going to slow down your career. In fact, for me, I learned so many skills being a stay-at-home mom with my twins that I could come back and multitask, and coming back to work was actually pretty simple because I had gained new skills in terms of like my level of organization and logistics. All of those things came into play. So when I came back to work, I remember interviewing with a principal, and the principal said to me, "Rachel, have you ever considered being a team leader?" And that was not something that I was thinking about, but I really wanted that leadership opportunity. And I felt I had the skill set to do it. And I loved that. That was one of the hardest roles that I had, but I was able to open a new school as a team leader, and that gave me a seat at the table. And that really helped me to understand more of the administrative side of teaching. And I began to fall in love with leadership at that time. So I had an amazing principal mentor who really walked me through all the different things, giving me different experiences in leadership. She did ask me at many different points in times that I want to become a principal one day. And I said, no, I will never become a principal. That's not something I want to do. I want to be a team leader in kindergarten and kind of stay here. But again, over time, I just learned more from her and doing things with my district and getting different opportunities. And eventually I became an assistant principal and then was promoted into the principalship. So I've been in my role as a school leader now for 12 years. 8 of them have been in the principalship and 4 of them were assistant principal. And in that role, I've really enjoyed being able to continue to expand influence and serve more families, serve more staff members, serve more students. And from there, I've been able, really blessed to have a lot of different opportunities. I am currently the president of our state organization, the Maryland Association of Elementary School Principals. And in that role, I really get to facilitate and work with other leaders across our state. And I also get to meet people nationally as a part of the National Association of Elementary School Principals. And that really expanded my views as well, thinking about the fact that, wow, what we're experiencing in our individual schools or across our state is also happening nationally and internationally. So I've just been really fortunate to meet so many amazing educators and leaders and continuing to learn from each other. And so from there, I wrote a couple of books. I've been able to speak at some really amazing conferences, and I just really like the way the journey is continuing to unfold.
That's great. It sounds like, you wound us through that path, from very beginnings with your family, your mother and your grandmother all being in education. And, that's definitely is going to, I think, help shape how you view education. And then, the touching on the people that were your mentors along the way. I know we've all, I think, to get to the point that we have, we wouldn't be where we were if there wasn't that support and guidance that we get from those people that helped to support us. Is your journey done here? Do you think do you see yourself moving beyond just the principal of a building into other leadership positions, or is it time to now spread your message of leadership and relationships, on a much broader scale? I know you've said you've been presenting. Does the word consultant enter into your sphere anywhere?
Yeah, I mean, this is a great question. It's something I do reflect on a lot. I really do love being a principal, but I'm also certified to be a superintendent. So that is something that I would consider in the future. I also am a wife and a mother, so I have to also think about my family's needs right now. And my children are in high school, so that's been fun to get on their schedule. At this point, I'm basically a glorified chauffeur. I take my children everywhere. My husband does the same. And so I have to think about how the different roles would impact our family. So for right now, I love being a principal. I love speaking on stages. I love consulting with different organizations. So I like where I am right now, but I'm certainly keeping the door open to different positions in the future.
Yeah, and you had mentioned too, there's obviously there's a lot of relationship building and things that go into this, or a lot of people that you interact with. Are there things, or is there one relationship in particular that's the most important that a new principal should prioritize, or is it a variety of them? Or what's your take on, when you first get in there as a new principal, what are the first relationships that you need to cultivate?
Yeah, great question. I think number one, of course, if you have an assistant principal, you want to make sure that you're doing your relationship building, your norms, making sure you're on the same page with roles and responsibilities. I think if you have a really strong administrative team, you can do incredible work. But often, or sometimes, what happens is you have two strong people, but if you're not working within your strengths or the team's strengths, then you're going to be slowed down at one point or another. And so I always impress upon leaders to make sure your communication skills are very strong and that you are very direct and also communicative and collaborative with the people that you're working with. So I would say, as a priority, your administrative team should definitely be that kind of first point where you are making contact and building relationships. I also think you should have a very strong relationship with your front office team and your custodial team. So that's the next kind of group in the office that you're going to see a lot. You're going to see your health room staff. You want to go over different protocols as things are happening in the building. Everything kind of comes through that front office. So tightening up procedures and answering questions, making sure you celebrating each other's birthdays. And again, everyone working through their strengths is really important. That makes for a great relationship. And then I would say your leadership team. So these are the department heads or the people who are leading in your classrooms or across different departments. It's really important that communication and time is spent learning the norms of the school. I ask a lot of questions. I'm someone who came to my school 2 years ago after being in my previous school for 9 years. And it's been a transition because not only are you changing schools, but you're also getting to know the people. And the people are most important. And that takes the most amount of time to understand group dynamics and all of those process questions. So I would say if you're coming in new, making sure that you're prioritizing your administrative team, your assistant principals, your front office staff, your custodians, and your leadership team. And then finally, when you're thinking about parents, we have a really strong PTA in our community. So one of my first touch points was with our PTA. And I wanted to make sure that I had opportunities to meet the community. And so we offered several times for community to come out to the school. And we also pushed out into our community, and we did that communication through our PTA. And so that was an important time in the summer to get FaceTime with our community members and our new students.
Was there, would you say there was a single thing that was the, maybe not the hardest, but like the biggest transition from going from a teacher to a principal? Like if someone was going from, if you were working with somebody that was going from teacher to principal, what advice would you give them as like, this was the biggest shift that I didn't really anticipate, or something like that?
A couple. I can think of a few. I'm going to give you two. I went from kindergarten to assistant principal. And that was a very big jump. That's probably one of the biggest jumps that you can make. And so one of the things I had to understand was systems, and how if one part of a system is impacted, other parts of the system are impacted too. And I didn't really have that understanding because I was coming out of a kindergarten classroom. So I knew if something happened in my classroom, that might impact a couple of people. But what I didn't have an understanding of, if something happened in one department or a decision is made, it can have a domino effect on the school. And so one of the things that I always impress upon new leaders is to slow down. I was moving very fast my first few months on the job. If someone asked me a question, I'm yes, no, maybe so, like doing, this whole thing, but it was causing a lot of confusion. And so what I say to new leaders is, unless it is a life or death situation, let the person know who's asking you a question. You've heard the question, you will get back to them with the appropriate response. And then you go back and you check and you learn the answer, and then you communicate the answer. So I know just by my personality, I'm an achiever, and I'm someone, I like to move quickly through things. And I made a lot of mistakes moving too fast. So I say, slow down, get to know people. And when you're asked questions, if you do not know the firm answer to them, don't make it up. Just say you will get back to them and check on those answers and then get back to them.
Yeah, it almost, in my mind, I'm like, as you're saying, and I'm thinking like there's almost like categories of things. So like, this is immediate.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that I need to maybe take some time to like digest, and then I'll give some sort of answer on that. Is that kind of how you operate, or is it, or what, what do you do with that?
I think part of my challenge being a new leader was that understanding that just because something is urgent for someone else doesn't mean it's urgent for me. And so that sense of urgency that sometimes people have is like really hard, because you absolutely understand that this is important to the person, that this issue feels like life or death to this person. But as leaders, we have to take a step back and really assess, where does this decision lie, or how quickly does it need to be made? Or do we need to pause and learn more information before we make a decision? And sometimes that's a communication with the person to say, I know this is important to you. And because it's important to you, I want to make sure I get this answer right. I want to make sure I have all the information that we need to make an informed decision. And so I need a couple of days to work on this. And I think people respect that, because you're giving yourself some time and space instead of saying something immediately, which may create more problems later on.
I think one of the things that maybe slowing down can also do is get you to recognize the moment that you're in, and to try to find the best possible outcome or most optimistic outlook that you can have on it, not assuming the worst in everyone, but maybe even to kind of find that joy in the moment. So kind of transitioning here into the TEDx talk that I know that you gave a few months back, I think it was, on the joyful rebellion. And I want to read this quote directly because it really struck me when I was watching that. The joyful rebellion is not about ignoring the challenges of education, but is about responding to those challenges in a way that's different. What do you mean by that? How can you use joy to approach a topic in a situation, a challenging one, in a much more optimistic tone?
Yeah. So one of the things that I talk a lot about as I'm doing my keynotes is about resilience. And part of resilience is joy and finding things to celebrate every day in our work and how we are approaching problems or things that are challenging. And so one of the things that I always impress upon educators and leaders to think about is, how do you approach problems? Do you see them as something that is terrible and challenging and another issue, or do we really approach them as opportunities? And I think this is the time in education, because there are so many challenges. We have to be very intentional about how we respond to things. We cannot have a knee-jerk reaction to everything that's going wrong. We need to think about, this is an opportunity to get creative. This is an opportunity to advocate for what we need, to show the data as to why this may or may not work. This is a time for us to use new keys to unlock doors. And one of the things I like to think about is that old keys may not unlock the new doors. We're going to have to think about some new ways, some creative ways to approach challenges, because the challenges that we're seeing today are only increasing. They're not going anywhere. They're actually getting harder. And so when I'm thinking about, okay, here's something else that's happening, I really try my best to encourage our team to think through, what are the possibilities within this challenge? Is there something new that can come out of this if we approach it in a different way? And sometimes we have to sit with that, and we have to really bring new people to the table to get some different perspectives, because sometimes we all get stuck. But I think this is the time where we as educators need to get creative. We have budget cuts. We have staffing cuts. That means the way that we used to do things is not the same. It can't be the same. And so what is possible? That's a question I ask all the time. I want to know what's possible. And then I usually will try to give one or two solutions. Is this a possibility? Is this a possibility? I just had the situation actually last week. We had gone through all of our candidates for a position, and there were no more candidates left. It was a very specialized position, and one that had been vacant for us since December. And I said, I really do not want to begin the year with a vacancy. And so we started asking questions. We started looking at staff and using staff flexibly. Is this an option? If so, who can I clear this with? And that kind of started a solution. And we were able to fill that position. But we had to do it creatively and flexibly. We couldn't just say, oh, no candidates, we have nothing to do about it. No, we had to come with some solutions as a team and pull it together.
I think part of that, comes from, you're talking about here, leveraging those different relationships that you have. But I think it's also kind of understanding the culture of the building that you're in, and realizing, I think, with a little bit of empathy, where if you push one button a little too long or hard, that those ripple effects will happen, and it might have this negative outcome. So being able to, I think, to feel out the people that are in the buildings that you work with to help you understand what is possible.
Yes, a lot of massaging, and again, back to relationships, because it's right. You're right. You have to know the people. You have to, and when you're new to a building, that's the hardest part, because knowing people takes time, knowing group dynamics. I'm still sometimes, running into dynamics, and I'm like, oh, okay, now I know that. Let me file that away, right? So that's a part of our work as leaders. And that's why it's important, like I said, and you said as well, to slow down, because sometimes you can step on a landmine unintentionally, but you have to approach it with a level of care and concern, especially as we're solving complex issues.
So if you could start a joyful rebellion movement in schools tomorrow, what would be the first thing you would either ask educators to either start or to stop doing?
I would love people to start doing gratitude walks. And I talk a lot about gratitude walks because as leaders, we are often walking into classrooms and into learning environments looking for what's not right to correct. But I would ask that we walk with a new lens and look for what is going well. Take pictures of that, share it out freely. I like to share pictures with our staff every Friday. I say happy Friday, and I'm highlighting something in our building, be it kids or staff, the community, something that we can celebrate, because we don't spend enough time doing that. And I listen to a lot of different speakers, and they'll say things like, if you don't tell your own story, somebody else will. And that's important for schools to know, especially public schools. This is a time where people are evaluating their schools. And so we want our families to have the confidence that we're taking great care of their children.
And Rachel, I want to stay on the relationship piece a little bit, but I also want to tie in AI. But yeah, if we could, so like the book that you wrote with Brad Johnson, yes, the Relational Intelligence book. Mm-hmm. Can you just give us like what's in one sentence, what's the main focal point of that book?
The main focal point is that trust, communication, and connections serve as a foundation of everything that we do as leaders. And it's a way for us to retain the talented teachers in our buildings, because teachers have a lot of choice in where they want to work, and challenges are everywhere. So if we can keep our teachers in a stable learning environment that's joyful, our students will have a stable learning environment, which is best for them.
Is there any part of you that worries at all, like with AI and how we're engaging with devices now? Do you have any fears there that about the impact on the relational intelligence, or like the impact of how people interact with one another, student to teacher, teacher to student, and student to student, teacher to teacher, all the above?
Well, I think it's interesting because what we're seeing now is a pendulum swinging that is taking and removing devices out of schools. So in our district, and actually the state of Maryland just passed a law that said by 2027, every school district needs to have a policy regarding devices. And limiting devices, essentially. So we're kind of seeing a pendulum swing in an opposite direction now, where people have some concerns about screen time. They have some concerns about some of the impacts socially. And so I don't have a concern necessarily in schools in terms of that, because I do believe ultimately humans are never going to be replaced. You cannot replace a hug from an adult. You can't do that. You cannot replace those relationships that humans have, that human touch. You can't do that. You can supplement some of those things. I think like instructionally, you can supplement instruction with AI. You can supplement AI with some things, but I truly believe that nothing can replace humans, and nothing can replace the way that we interact with each other. We need to prioritize that. And I also believe that AI can help make more time for those relationships. And here's an example. When traditionally, as I'm thinking of things to do for our staff, it might take me like an hour's time to sit and really think through, okay, I want to do something to boost our staff morale. And I might talk to several people and gather ideas and go through that. But when I need a thought partner very quickly, I can turn to AI really quickly and say, here are some of my ideas, but I'm a little stuck. What are some other ideas that I might consider? And within seconds, I will have brand new ideas to consider to start working off of. And what that has given me back is time to spend with my students, time to spend with our staff members, time to make personal phone calls that are positive. So I like to think of AI as a partner to help save time so that we have more time for people. It's a tool.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. We've had some conversations lately on the podcast just about what screen time looks like and how it's really in relation to making sure that you're still building relationships in school like that. And a lot of it to me seems to be that it's all in the design of how we approach it. Like if all you're doing is placing a screen in front of students for 7 hours a day, well, yeah, that's not going to be good, right? But if there's intentionality in the design with lessons in pedagogy. And I think what you mentioned there, it opens up some of those doors and opportunities for better relationship building. So Rachel, you had mentioned the things that AI frees you up to do, like creating those relationships and things like that. Are there things that you feel like from a leadership standpoint, there are certain tasks that just should not be automated?
Yes, I think when we are working with parents through challenges or challenging situations, we should not be relying solely on email because so much can be misunderstood. And there are some nuances in some of those conversations. So we should be picking up the phone. We should invite families in to meet with us face to face or meeting them where it's a convenient location, because I do think nothing can replace us. And, it's important that our presence is felt, and an email doesn't really get that done. Another thing I always like to tell leaders is that we should be out in our buildings on the ground, walking through, making sure that our presence is there because we need to stay more connected now more than ever. So we really need, none of that can be replaced, in my opinion, by AI or by computer systems, because the human touch is what's needed right now.
What do you see as the biggest challenge, like as we work in schools and set examples for students? What is it that you think is the most important thing to maintain as a staff so that students still see the value of authentic relationships, especially with all the things coming their way, right? And not just them, but teachers too, like AI or just, the virtual world that's out there. What do you think is the most important factor to help students understand the importance of those relationships?
Well, I think as the adults in the building, we should be modeling this with each other. That's one thing that we talk as a staff a lot about. We can't ask students to do anything that we are not willing to do ourselves. And so, when we're having personal check-ins with each other, that's one of the great things about our staff. We do personal check-ins with each other, and we do them with the students as well. And the students look forward to those checks. And, I think of myself, even when I was a little girl, I remember having some family challenges, and it was my principal and my classroom teachers who really looked out for me, who asked about, how are you doing? How's your mom? How's your big brother? And those were simple check-ins, but they meant a lot to me. They showed me that I was valued and that I was important to someone else. And I think that's what we need to be doing for students. A lot of students are feeling disconnected and disengaged for a variety of reasons, but it only takes one trusted adult to really capture a child. And so as the adults in the building, each one of us should be thinking about, who are we trusted adults for, and making sure that we have an account of all those students in our building so that everybody knows there's a go-to person for every child.
So Rachel, you've written 3 different books. You have The Principal's Journey, which is kind of for school leaders,
Yes.
Relational Intelligence to help build stronger human connections. But your third book, Principal Pals, for children, for kids.
Yes.
What do you think is the common thread that ties those books together?
Definitely leadership. And I think just a love of learning, and just, I like to make sure that people know the functions of like all of the beauty of the different roles in our schools. And so I really try to highlight that across all the books, the importance that no matter what your title is, everybody is a leader in a school. Everyone is looked up to by someone in the school. And so when I wrote the children's book, I really wanted the children to know and understand what the job of a principal is, because a lot of students will tell you, if you ask 10 students, what does a principal do? You're going to definitely get 10 different answers, and they're all going to be hilarious. And so I wrote that book because I really wanted our students to understand what is the role of a principal and how do we support our schools. We just don't make all the rules, which is often what we're thought of, or children don't only come and see us when they're in trouble. We do lots of different things. And so my goal in writing that book was for students to understand the many different roles that a principal has. And then relational intelligence, again, is all about valuing people and valuing the strengths that everyone brings individually to our buildings to make our buildings stronger. And then the principal's journey, just talking about how to navigate your pathway to leadership, what individual strengths do you bring to a building, or what potential do you have, and what mentors can you seek out to help bring that out. So I think it really is across those books, I would say, valuing people and the strengths that we bring individually and collectively into schools to make them better.
I remember, and I vividly remember this being in third grade, and third grade was a tough year for me. I remember because that was the year my parents were getting divorced, and the principal of the school, was one that Mr. Cox was his name. So I shout out to him if he's around. I have no idea, but was someone I definitely viewed as an authority figure, a person that would, kids would go to their office and they would leave crying because he had to, dole out the punishments and things. But I think he caught me walking through the hallway one day on my way back to class from somewhere, and he pulled me aside it was like a maintenance room. And at that time, we were also doing some sort of fundraiser at the school. And he pulled like a $5 bill out of his wallet and bought 5 raffle tickets or something from me, and just said, hey, I know you're going through stuff, but, I'm here to help support you. And, oh, yeah, by the way, I know your brother and you were climbing on the roof of the building the other day. Don't do that again.
I love it.
So he took that moment to kind of, I think, instill a little positive moment into, but yet I'm going to sandwich this with, something that I know you were doing, and, I'm not going to punish you for it, but
yeah,
you can do better. But, and I think that just kind of helps bring me to, if you think back to like the best principals that you've had, or that you've had an opportunity to work with, what qualities do they possess that help them rise up to the top? Like Mr. Cox in my example,
Yeah, I think basically what you just said. I have another example similarly to that. Mr. Slacum was my elementary school principal, and he still is my favorite principal to this day. He actually came to surprise me last year at my school, and we got to walk the hallway together as principals. And it was like a dream come true to walk next to him, knowing that he was my principal when I was in second grade. And he got to meet our current students, and, they were captivated by him similarly, like I was as a little girl. And I think what distinguishes him and many other principals is the care, the concern, and what you just said, like kind of that check-in, like, hey, I'm going to pull you aside. I know your name. I know about your brother. I know what you did yesterday. But also that you're here to support, right? So I think holding people to high standards and really speaking life into them to say, like, you can be doing better, and there's nothing wrong with that. I expect you to do that, while also having that genuine care, that individualized attention. I think every child responds to that, and so does every adult.
All right, so the work week starts on Monday typically, but tell us, what is a Strong Start Sunday?
Oh, yeah. So the Strong Start Sunday is the day before, where we get ready for the Monday. And so Strong Start Sunday came about as I was finishing up and thinking about relational intelligence, about that book, and just thinking about, what do school leaders need? How can we pour into each other? Because this is a very hard role, very, very challenging. It becomes challenging to me more every year, more and more. And so Strong Start Sundays really just became a forum for us to come together around certain topics and share what works, share strategies, share encouragement. So it's been almost a year of that live podcast, and I'm really appreciative for all of the guests and the people who've made time to watch. I mean, we're all very busy, so the fact that people were willing to watch us for 30 minutes and get a level of encouragement before the work week starts, I think was important. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, definitely check out the podcast if you haven't, Strong Start Sundays.
Thank you.
As you've been going through that process, what do you feel like has inspired you the most with those folks that you've talked to?
Oh my goodness. I always learn so much from different leaders. Every leader is so different, and every leader has like multiple areas of expertise. And so there have been times when I've said, I'm really interested in what your school is doing. So in addition to what you're telling, can we stay like 5 more minutes and give me some more information about it? So for me, the value has been learning from other leaders and hearing their stories and thinking about how I can incorporate some of their leadership into our own leadership in our schools. So I think it's so helpful for school leaders to come together and share what's working so that we can all learn from each other.
Yeah, and I think there's so many great outlets now for leaders and people that are in like Jeremy and I's position. Like we've been able to likewise talk to so many amazing people that have awesome insights, and just it encourages you to want to do better and learn more. And so we really appreciate that too. As you look at the leadership messages that you've either written about or that you've heard from others, what's one that you keep coming back to? Like call it a mantra or whatever, but what's a message that you keep coming back to?
I keep coming back to the idea that people do not connect with perfect leaders. They connect with authentic leaders. And for me, it's important to continue to help demystify the role of the principal. I think people have so many misconceptions and ideas about what we do and what we don't do. And I think at some point, and I know I was subject to this as well, I had a lot of misconceptions that were actually preventing me from wanting to do this job. But once I saw the level of impact, once I thought about the impact that my principals had on me, I knew that that was something that I wanted to do and that I wasn't going to be afraid of it. I wanted to come in as prepared as I could, as prepared as possible to be successful. But just knowing and understanding the importance of the roles that we are in is critical. So I think the more that we talk about our struggles, the more that we talk about our success as educators, then that will open up other people to see themselves in this future role as well. If we act like everything is perfect, however, no one's going to want to do it, because then it becomes something that's unattainable. Then it becomes something that only a certain number of people can do. If you have this certain experience, or if you only do that. And so I like to tell people, I came out of a kindergarten classroom. Not many principals have that profile, but I'm proud to continue to share that, because there may be other kindergarten teachers sitting right now who haven't considered being a school leader, but they may have the skill set to do it. So we should continue to talk about that.
So I think you're almost leading us perfectly into our lightning round here, is because we want to get to know the authentic Rachel here, right? And I think these questions are going to help us get there. So feel free to give as short or an elaborate of a response as you need for these first ones here, until we get to the this or that one, and then we're going to kind of paint you into a corner. So David, I think you've got the first one here.
Okay. What's a song or artist that never fails to reset your mood after a long week?
I'm going to go with Michael Jackson. I've been enjoying the movie, and then that like funneled all of the songs that I liked growing up again. So I've been listening to all of the old stuff in the car on the way to work.
Awesome.
Nice.
What's your go-to comfort food after a long day or a long week?
Anything chocolate, but no nuts in there. It has to just be chocolate. So like a brownie, no nuts, or ice cream, something like that.
All right. If you could take a 1-week learning trip anywhere, no work obligations, where are you going?
Ooh, does it have to be learning? Could it be anywhere?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be learning.
Okay. So I love Hawaii. We have family there, and it's one of my favorite places to go and relax. So I would definitely go back to Hawaii.
I was there once. I would go back in a heartbeat. I think it would be just fantastic.
Yes. Yes.
What's something that most people would be surprised to learn about you?
Okay, well, when I had my twins, when my our OB had never had an opportunity to like do advertisements with 2 babies, so they asked my husband and I if we would do some advertisements for them in exchange for like free family pictures, which we did, and we were so excited to do those. Well, we didn't know exactly like where the prints were going to end up. So we found some in the magazine, which was nice. But the best was we heard we were on a billboard, which I did not believe until one of my parents took a picture from the side of the highway and said, "You guys are on a billboard." And so that was cool. I never saw it in person, but I saw the video evidence, the picture of it. And at the time, our children were probably in elementary school. So they used those pictures for many years. Our children are now in high school, but they held those baby pictures a very, very long time. So I was on the billboard.
That's pretty crazy. What's a book, movie, or show that isn't work related that you love right now?
Well, I will always love The Office. I think that's like probably my favorite show ever. So I can like watch The Office anytime, any season. And it's like, well, seasons 1 through 5 or 6 are better, but that's a show I can watch at any given time and always enjoy it. Yeah.
So David and I are going to have this big conference tomorrow, and you're going to be our keynote speaker for that event. And so what song do you want to be your walk-up song that's going to get that, audience going here to kick off a great day at the conference?
Okay. It's always, if I'm speaking and keynoting in the summer, it's always Summertime by DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. Classic.
Yep. Very classic.
Cool. Okay. We're getting into our this or that segment.
Okay.
So this is just the either or. You can only choose one.
All right. This is hard. Okay.
So notebooks and paper or a notes app?
Paper.
Paper. Okay. Podcasts or music while traveling?
Music.
Mountains or beach?
Ooh. I'm going to say home. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to say the beach.
Okay. Text or call?
Text.
Early bird or night owl?
Definitely early bird.
Okay. And then first to leave the party or last to stay?
Definitely first to leave. Also, I want to change my answer. I like phone calls better. Texts are quicker, but I like phone calls better.
And then our last one, big group hangout or one-on-one time?
One-on-one time, for sure.
All right.
Yeah. I like those questions. Those are good.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Rachel. We've just had a great time here chatting with you and getting to know you a little bit better and having these wonderful conversations. But before we let you off the hook here, we want to give you an opportunity here to promote anything that you have coming up. Give a plug for your books or a presentation that you're going to give, or, a great way to reach out to you.
Awesome. Well, Jeremy and David, thank you so much for having me. This has been a fun conversation. I would say first of all, thank you. And thank you to everyone who took the time to listen to the session today. I would love to stay connected with you. The easiest way to stay connected with me is rachel@edoho-Eket.com. That's where you'll find my books, my blogs, my videos, and all those things in one place. And some things I want to lift up. I'm going to be speaking on this main stage next week at ISTE ASCD conference. I'm really excited for that opportunity. I'm also going to be keynoting at the National School Leaders Conference in July in Orlando. And if you're familiar with Jimmy Casas, I'll be the keynote speaker on Wednesday in Chicago at Culturize. So I'm really excited to join his team and meet everyone. So thank you again for this opportunity, guys.
Yeah, and we'll make sure to link those things in our show description here too. But yeah, again, thank you so much.
Thank you.